Hello, it is Ryan, and we could all use an extra bright spot in our day, couldn't we? Just to make up for things like sitting in traffic, doing the dishes, counting your steps, all the mundane stuff. That is why I'm such a big fan of Chumba Casino. Chumba Casino has all your favorite social casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere with daily bonuses. That should brighten your day a little. Actually, a lot. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com. That's ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
Hi, everyone. I'm Deb Flashenberg. Welcome to Yoga, Birth, Babies, a podcast produced by Prenatal Yoga Center. We will be diving into everything prenatal yoga, birth, and baby related, hoping to inspire, educate, and empower you through your journey into motherhood. Thank you for listening. Hi, I'm Deb Flashenberg, and I'm your host of Yoga Birth Babies. And today's episode is a little bit of a departure from what we typically talk about pregnancy and birth and interventions and lactation. Today, we're talking about what your astrological chart can tell you about yourself and your parenting and your child. I found this conversation fascinating. Full disclosure, I love astrology. I think it's really interesting. Both my kids as a gift were given their birth charts, and my mom had me have my birth chart done when I graduated the conservatory. So it's something that I always have in the back of my mind. So when it was presented to me that I can interview someone about natal charts and parenting, I jumped on it. So we have Tara Vogel. She is a certified parenting astrologer who is passionate about helping parents stay connected to their kids and themselves using astrology. I think you're going to have a really fun time listening to this, as well as if it strikes an interest, start to look at, what does my child's chart say about how they need to be parented, and how am I as a parent reacting or maybe being triggered by things? So it's just another way of looking at parenting. And I think, at least for myself, anything that can give me some more tools and insight to who I am and how I parent and who my children are and how they need to be parented, I think is a good thing. So I hope you enjoy this. Before we get to that conversation, I just want to go over things that are happening at the studio. Oh, wow. It has been such a blast watching the community rebuild. We now have even more classes in person. I think we have every single day of the week except Sunday, and that's when we have it online. And we still have our online classes every day. So just this morning's class, I was talking to, where are you tuning in from? We had someone from California. We had someone from Nicaragua. We have people, some are from the Upper West Side of New York, which is where our studio is. But it was really beautiful to see people all over still connecting online. So I've got in-person classes for you, online classes for you. Those are our prenatal and postnatal yoga classes. And of course, all of our workshops, our parenting workshops online, some of them on demand, some of them online live, and then some in person. So go to our website, check it out, prenatalyogacenter.com. And then while you're cruising around our website, you can look at our free downloadable 5 simple solutions to the most common pregnancy pains. And I always say, don't forget, postpartum pains can fall into those categories too. It's like a little cheat sheet for the days that you can't make it to class. What else is happening? Let's see. We've got our teacher training. We were back in person this fall. That was super fun. And then we have our online training for late fall and early winter. And then we're back in person for the spring. So if you are someone that is really interested in serving the perinatal community and you're already a yoga teacher, check this out. It is a very in-depth, very I'm going to say fun and exciting program, evidence-based, of course. So you can also check that out on our website. Then the last thing, and this is really about you, the listener, the community, if there's a topic that I haven't covered, or maybe I already covered it, but you want a different angle, or maybe you have someone you think would be a really good guest, reach out to me, because I really want to make sure that I am offering you what is best going to support you through your pregnancy and your birth and your early parenthood journey. So you can always reach me at deb@prenatalyogacenter.com. Okay, we're going to take a super quick break, and when we come back, please enjoy my conversation with Tara.
Hey there. Did you know Baker's always gives you savings and rewards on top of our lower than low prices? And when you download the Baker's app, you'll enjoy over $500 in savings every week with digital coupons. And don't forget fuel points to help you save up to $1 per gallon at the pump. Want to save even more? With a Boost membership, you'll get double fuel points and free delivery. So shop and save big at Baker's today. Baker's, fresh for everyone. Savings may vary by state. Restrictions apply. See site for details.
Hi, Tara. How are you?
Good. Hi, Deb. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. So this is interesting. I have never had anyone talk about astrological charts on the podcast, but I'll also say both my kids, it was a gift, but both my kids had their charts done and they're hanging in their room. So I see them all the time. So I'm really excited to dive into this topic. So, I guess the best way to start is I'd love to learn a little bit about you and how you ended up as a parenting astrologer.
Yeah, so I will share. I have 3 children. One is about to turn 10 next week. Another one is 17, and then I have a 21-year-old. So I'm going to rewind the story to when my 17-year-old, when she was first born. So I had a beautiful birth with a midwife. It was a beautiful pregnancy. I did all the things, the quote unquote right things. And when she was born, again, I had a beautiful birth. She was struggling to nurse. And at the time, I was a La Leche League leader. So I'm thinking, how is it that I can't get my baby to nurse this is like what I do for other moms. And so, fast forward, we realized that she was having developmental delays. We really didn't know why. I tried everything under the sun, mainstream, alternative, you name it. I tried to figure out what was happening with her. And when she was maybe 3 or 4, we got an MRI done and she officially had the diagnosis of cerebral palsy, that there was some insult when she was probably in utero, but I don't really know when, where there was an oxygen loss. So, like I said, we were trying to all these different ways to have her, to fix her, to help her be more incarnated and just in her body in this lifetime. And so, it was, and even with the diagnosis of cerebral palsy, there's a lot you can do to help repair the brain and the pathways and everything. And so I was really burning myself out doing that and just wanting to support her. And we were looking at schools for her at the time. We lived in New Jersey, and there weren't any schools that were really, I knew she was, I knew, especially because there wasn't any, birth trauma. I knew that she was here as a soul. I was a pretty spiritual mom at the time, still am, but I knew that she was a soul on a different path. And my son, who was 3.5 years older than her, was going to a Waldorf school. And Waldorf is really good at honoring the soul and, the path that they chose. And I really wanted that for Eva when it was time for her to go to school. And I couldn't find that in New Jersey. But I wanted a Waldorf school for her. And so there was a Waldorf school for special needs children in Pennsylvania, and we ended up moving. And when we got there, I was trying to connect with the new moms, and someone had said, have you ever had Eva's birth chart read? And I said, I don't know what that is. Tell me a little bit more. A birth chart is, I'll tell you for all of the listeners that don't know, it's a flattened out map of where all the planets were in the sky on the day, time, and place that you're born. And we all have one. And so I said, I don't really know what that is. And I know that I'm a Capricorn and Eva's a Pisces, but is there more to know? And so I went and I had her birth chart read, because we all know our sun signs, right? Mm-hmm. And the moon was in a certain sign when we were born. There was a sign that was coming up on the horizon. There's so much more to us than just our sun sign and our personality. So I had hers read, and I was by the local astrologer, back at that time. I was just blown away by how he described her so accurately, and her personality and the way she processed emotions. And the way she thought, because she's really, really smart. And I couldn't, he had never met her. And I just thought, I need to understand this more, because what it brought me in that moment was peace. Like, okay, she's, of course, the birth chart, your natal chart doesn't diagnose you with like, okay, here you have cerebral palsy, you're neurotypical or neurodivergent or anything like that. But it does explain, how our personality presents itself and how our mind thinks and how we learn and how we communicate, all of those things. And so he described them so accurately. And it brought me peace to know that, okay, although her circumstances are hard, there's something greater that's going on with her in this lifetime. And all I need to do is support her as her mom. And that the information that he gave me from that natal chart reading helped me support her in the way that her soul was wanting, not the way that I thought she needed to be supported. So I had her scheduled. I mean, we were doing every therapy under the sun. And here she is, a really, really sensitive soul. She has a lot of planets in Pisces, so needs her space and time to dream and just be. And so it was so illuminating for me. And I thought, first of all, I need to understand how this works, and then just really had the inspiration to go on and do this for other parents. And as you know, as I said, I have 2 other children, and they're, completely neurotypical. And what I know about their chart, their natal chart, has helped me just as much as having Eva's natal chart read. So it's like a parenting hack in itself. And I often talk about the astrological natal chart that way.
It makes me want to go in my kids' room and look at their charts more. I mean, just literally hang up their beautiful charts. So tell me, I'm slightly kind of going off script of the questions I sent, but this is fascinating to me. So tell me what it is that when someone has the chart done, okay, I'm going to back up. When someone has their chart done, what are the things listed that a parent might observe? And then how might that help them? Parents are like, what was it about Ava's chart that you saw? They're like, okay, this is giving me the roadmap to how she needs support. I just threw a lot of questions at you.
Yeah.
So
yeah, well, you definitely need an astrologer. And I'm assuming that you had somebody printed
Yes.
out, because there's so many options. A beautiful chart that can be framed, and it says, this is where Mercury was, this is where the sun was, and the degree,
Right.
of all these planets. And sometimes you even get a written interpretation, but there's, a computer can only do so much. And so when you're sitting with an astrologer, they can really explain your child. Like I see it as we all have a soul curriculum, and it can be understood by understanding the language of astrology and the natal chart. And not everybody understands the language of astrology. So that's why it can be helpful to have an astrologer to interpret that for you.
Yes, if you can say like what would be on a chart and what someone, like I know that there was the moon, the rising, there's sun sign. Like, so what are the things that might show up on a chart and what do they mean?
Yeah. So when I'm doing a chart for, and I really like to, I like to read children's charts for parents. So the child is not there. It's almost, I have a background. I used to be an elementary school teacher before I had kids. And then after I had my first baby, I became a natural parenting educator. So I have this parenting slant to my background. So I like to sit with a parent and let them understand, like help them to understand their child's soul curriculum. And we all have free will. And so how that curriculum plays out is very much, dependent on our own consciousness as we get older. But, when we're young, it really depends on the level of consciousness of our parents and, our circumstances. What culture are we born into? Where in the world we live and all those things. So, but what I really like to focus on first is the moon, because the moon is our childhood, especially from the time of birth to age 7. Those are our moon years. And so understanding that the moon in anyone's natal chart describes our emotional body and our needs and what we need to feel cared for and what makes us comfortable and happy and how we feel safe. That's different for all of us. It also, talks about how changes happen because, the moon changes so frequently. So it's really, there's a famous astrologer, Noel Till, and he says your moon shows your reigning need. And so it's really helpful for parents to understand how their child wants to be nurtured, and it can be really fascinating to understand our own moon signs and how it is that we signed up to be nurtured in this lifetime. It's, I not only do astrology for parents, I do astrology so you can reparent yourself and really take care of yourself well, maybe that you didn't get, when you were younger. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, it's a really good self-care for mom's tool as well to have your own natal chart read. So I love to start with the moon, and then I like to look at Mercury because Mercury, our Mercury years are years 7 to 14. Not that the moon doesn't become important. The moon is the foundation for all of who we are. And it's interesting that we all know our sun, but we can't know our moon until we pull up our birth chart, right? So we know that, if there was a baby that was born today, the sun is in Virgo. So that baby would be a Virgo sun. But we also have the moon is changing. If half the day today it's in Cancer, then the second half of the day it's in Leo. So you really need to be able to, and you can go on astro.com and, years ago astrologers had to do everything by hand, and now we have computers that do it for us. So it's Mercury is really important as well because that tells Mercury in our chart tells how our mind works, how we learn best, how we communicate, the kind of words that I need to hear from my primary caregiver. I mean, tell me that's not important.
No, this is fascinating.
Yeah, the way what my repetitive thoughts are, because so Mercury is in one of the zodiac signs too. So, and the sun comes a little bit later. Like we develop our sun as we move through our years, but we really express ourselves. Do you know your kids' sun signs, right?
Do.
Tell me.
All right. I'm just trying to think. I know their sun, I know their rising, and I'd have to look at their charts to know their moon. And then, of course, just putting it back to myself, I'm like, I know my sun, my moon, my rising, and then how are we all compatible? Yeah. So,
yeah. Yes. It's great. And these are all things that we talk about in sessions. But yeah, to know just your sun, your own sun, moon, and rising, and your kids' sun, moon, and rising can be really helpful. If, I'm a Capricorn, and so Capricorns are very goal-focused, and,
that's my rising.
Workers. Yeah. Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
You came in responsible. You were responsible when you were young. Right?
Well, yeah. I've always been, yes, that is something yes. But here's a question I was thinking about. So I know I've been to births a bunch, and they, baby comes out and someone looks at a watch or a clock and they're like, here's the time. And I know that on charts, it's down to like the minute, but what if that was off by, like you said, half the day it could be in Cancer, half the day it could be in something else. Like how to the minute accurate does a chart have to be?
Yeah, it's great to have a clock watcher.
But I know that, those can be slightly off by a few minutes.
Yeah. They can, and a few minutes isn't going to make that much of a difference. The rising sign, so the sign, like right now, I don't know, like I'm in the Philadelphia area, so there is a sign that's rising on the eastern horizon. It's different than the sign that's rising on the other side of the earth. But, and so that rising sign changes the rising sign degree changes, I'm getting a little technical here, changes every 4 minutes. So, each sign of the zodiac, there are 12 of them, rise for about 2 hours. So your rising sign is really important. And if you have, if it's within a few minutes, you're still good, and it's best to have a really accurate time. So, yeah, that's my answer to that. It's the more accurate a time you can have, the better of a reading. But, if it's off by even 10 minutes cannot make that much of a difference. It may still be the same rising sign. It may still be the same moon sign. It just depends on things.
Thank you. That answers a question because I've always wondered, because again, attending births, I've seen someone and then my own births. I'm like, how accurate are those? I was just always curious. What does modern day astrology look like? Because I feel like some people think astrology and they just think like woo woo purple crystals. Like, what are some of the common misconceptions about modern day astrology?
Well, definitely that there's nothing to it. And all those people that are naysayers, I really encourage you to just go have your own birth chart read, because by the end, and you just show up and the astrologer, all they have is that map of where the planets were in the sky on the day, time, and place you were born. And they will tell you about you. And they will also tell you about what's really like the kinds of things that are happening in your life right now, like what might be hard for you, where you're being asked to rise to the occasion. So because we have not only who you are, which is shown by your natal chart, and that never changes. That's our promise in this lifetime. Like, I'm going to come, I'm going to do this. This is who I'm going to be. But the planets in the sky are always moving, and they touch in with those sensitive points, like your Capricorn rising is at a certain degree. So, sometime in the last 10 years or so, you've had Pluto cross your ascendant. So there's a whole transformation of who you, and I don't know the degree of your rising, but like who you are. You're becoming someone new. You're transforming and becoming someone different. Mm-hmm. And so, it can be really helpful to understand the transits that you have going on at the time, because it can make your crazy normal, or it can make your, oh, this is why I got fired, or this is why I'm now realizing that the partner that I chose really is not the one that is my life partner, or this is why I needed to completely change careers because it was, and so it can also help understand why we have things that are happening in our lives. But yeah, if you go to a really well-trained astrologer, they'll be able to tell you about you like your mother couldn't even. So, and then you're like, okay, I might not understand it, but I know there's something to it. So some people just think it's made up. Mm-hmm. Another misconception is that it can predict really bad things, when modern astrology absolutely does not do that. It is, how is this the perfect chart for you? How is this the perfect transit, the perfect time that you're experiencing right now in your life? What is your soul wanting to learn from it? And so, I think in the days of ancient astrology, like all of the royalty had astrologers because they needed to be able to predict if their kingdom was going to get attacked, and they needed to know like the worst case scenarios. And I think that's where this like predictive, like can predict like really bad things definitively, mm-hmm. which astrology cannot definitively predict anything like that, especially not modern astrologers. That's not even how I was trained. So there's traditional astrologers and there's modern psychological astrologers. All of my teachers have been modern psychological astrologers. So I don't want to know how to do that, and I don't know how to do that.
Mm-hmm. This is making sense. All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, let's talk about how natal charts can help people better connect with their child or children and themselves. So we'll be right back, and we'll jump into that.
Hey there. Did you know Baker's always gives you savings and rewards on top of our lower than low prices? And when you download the Baker's app, you'll enjoy over $500 in savings every week with digital coupons. And don't forget fuel points to help you save up to $1 per gallon at the pump. Want to save even more? With a Boost membership, you'll get double fuel points and free delivery. So shop and save big at Baker's today. Baker's, fresh for everyone. Savings may vary by state. Restrictions apply. See site for details. Hey there. Did you know Baker's always gives you savings and rewards on top of our lower than low prices? And when you download the Baker's app, you'll enjoy over $500 in savings every week with digital coupons. And don't forget fuel points to help you save up to $1 per gallon at the pump. Want to save even more? With a Boost membership, you'll get double fuel points and free delivery. So shop and save big at Baker's today. Baker's, fresh for everyone. Savings may vary by state. Restrictions apply. See site for details.
Okay, we are back. So kind of pulling it back to the parenting idea, because I find now, again, I keep wanting to like pause and go look at my kids, like take the charts off the wall and be like, what does this mean? But how can someone's natal charts help them better connect with their children and themselves?
Yeah, well, when we understand who someone else is, we have a lot of acceptance and love and appreciation for them. Like, oh my gosh, I'll just use my daughter for an example, my almost 10-year-old. Everyone in the family is, all the zodiac signs are either in 4 elements, air, earth, water, or fire. And so we are a family of water and earth people, and she is fire and air. And boy, does she have a lot of energy. And it can seem like she's high energy. There's always something going on. She's always talking about something. I don't even understand how she has so much energy. So she can many times feel like I'm so different than everyone else, like, or I talk too much, or I have too much energy. And it's just because she's swimming in a sea of very emotional people who are very practical. Earth is very practical. Water is very deeply feeling and emotional. And sometimes her energy can be a lot for us and can feel a little bit like overwhelming. So I have to, knowing that she is a lot of fire and air allows me to be like, look at you, you beautiful, energetic child who's come with a different soul curriculum than me. I'm actually very low in fire and air. And you're here to teach me that, which is a very, very common thing that our children show us what we need to really embrace for ourselves, which is almost like we could do a whole nother podcast on that. When we as parents get triggered, how to think about that astrologically. But it can just, when parents leave sessions with me, it's almost like, and I really like to get very practical, like, tell me the hard thing that you're experiencing right now about your relationship with your child. And so because I really want to use their kid's natal chart as a tool to help support them in their day-to-day life, because you're a parent, right? It is a day-to-day thing. I don't need the prediction. I don't need someday your child's going to have a great career. It's like, no, just tell me how to get to the end of the week, because right now we're in a challenging little bit and we butt heads a lot, or, this is happening. So I love to work on the very practical things. My Mercury, the way my mind works, is in an earth sign, so it likes to get practical. So if parents leave sessions with, having had their child's chart read, feeling really empowered and like this, oh my gosh, I appreciate them in a way that I just didn't before. Because here's the little secret about reading a child's chart. I teach about this also. I teach other astrologers how to read children's charts. They're very simple because kids just are themselves. Mm-hmm. They have not gotten themselves wrung out of them yet. They just really are a true expression of how they are. So it's very literally their natal chart. I don't have to think about it. It's very easy to read them. So parents leave with this renewed way of seeing their child and just this acceptance. And it's really, and very practical directives. As I said, I'm like a practical astrologer. So, I think it's your best parenting tool, one of your best.
All right, so I do have a question, because when I was pregnant, and we didn't plan their signs, but I was aware when we got due dates. I'm like, okay, these are water signs. And I know certain signs connect better with others. So it happens to be that all the signs, their 2 signs are compatible on, typically with mine. But what happens, and this could be totally wrong, like what happens if a child's sign isn't a quote unquote good fit or like compatible with the parents? You know how certain ones are grouped better getting along? Does that make sense?
Yeah. And I mean, I really believe that all signs get along with all signs.
Okay. So maybe it's like old thinking.
Well, I think that there's a lot of like, if you're a Capricorn, you should never date a Leo. Like, I think that gets a lot of, it gets people like, and so it sells. It's like, it's that pop astrology that sells. Yeah. But I don't believe that, because we're not just our sun sign. Of course, we're our moon sign in relationships. And our Venus sign can be way more important than our sun sign. So it's just the different, the planets in our natal chart are just different parts of us.
So don't get too hung up on it. So if someone's out there and you're like, I'm a Capricorn, what'd you say, Capricorn and Leos? You're like, oh no, my baby's going to be a Leo. We're going to have a struggling relationship. So don't get too hung up on that.
No, because who knows? And the thing is that I'm a Capricorn sun and my son, who's 21, is a Capricorn moon, and my daughter Eva has her Mars in Capricorn. So there are similar, because there's similar threads that run through families. There's a whole book written on this. I think it's called Planetary Threads, and how the theme runs through families. So because if I come with a certain quote unquote soul curriculum, I need to be bathed in that as I'm growing up. I need to be really witnessing the Capricorn archetype or, the Saturn archetype, because Saturn rules Capricorn. So we do come with similar flavors as our children.
Okay.
And so even though, my daughter's sun, moon, and rising is in fire and air, there are, there's other water and earth signatures in her as well.
Yeah, it's interesting. Myself and my two kids are all water, my husband's air. And I'm like, I wonder how that fits. Interesting. All right. So what does someone's zodiac sign say about their parenting style?
Yeah, that I actually have an ebook. Maybe you could put that in the show notes.
Sure.
It's called What Does My Son Say About My Mothering Style?
Huh.
Because so you can read about that.
Okay.
And it's more than just the sun, but I made the book because I wrote the book because everybody knows their sun sign. But your rising sign, which you really haven't talked to about, I know you're a Capricorn rising. Your rising sign is the way you move through life, so it's like, you can think of it this way for the listeners out there. If you just know your sun, moon, and rising, your sun is what you want, it's your personality. Your moon is what you need, like how to nurture yourself.
Okay.
And your rising sign is a lot of times how people see you, and it's how you go about getting what you want and what you need. It's like, for you, it's like you have Capricorn blood running through your system. Like and so sometimes people think you are a Capricorn, right? Because you're responsible. You handle things. You can do hard things. Give me a job and I'll do it.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. So people can think like, oh, she must be a Capricorn. When really it's just, that's the blood that's running, or the juice that's running through your system.
That's so interesting that has that it seems to have such a strong hold or perception of the personality, when most of us relate to or think of ourselves more in the sun sign. Like, I've always thought of myself more of my sun sign. That's so interesting. So someone's sun sign, what would that say about their parenting? But we shouldn't think just sun sign. We should think more all together and our rising sign. Am I interpreting that correctly?
Yeah, it's really, and that's where a professional astrologer can kind of put the three together for you and much more, because when you take your first breath, it sets up all the houses in astrology. And that's, the houses play a really important role as well. Like, well, where is, what sun sign are you?
Oh, Scorpio.
So where is your Scorpio sun? What house is it in? Because the houses are just different areas of life where these parts, or the planets, in astrology, show up for us? Like what area of life is there going to be a lot of action for you, and you're going to develop your personality and develop yourself? Is it in the house of family and home? Is it in career? Is it in the house of partnerships and marriage? So, but your own moon, so your moon shows, this is really fascinating because I have 3 different kids and they have 3 different moon signs, and I am the same person.
Right.
But our own natal moon shows our perception of our mom the way I saw her. So whatever your moon is, that's how you saw your mom. And guess what? You have 2 kids, right?
Yeah.
They have 2 moon signs. I don't know if they're the same or not, but that's their perception of you. And so it can be really, I'm not really answering your question, but I am going to answer it in a minute. It can be really helpful to understand your kid's natal chart, to understand the light that they see you in, the way that they see you. And our own natal moon, so going back to our own chart, also shows like how we were mothered, but also it shows how we mother. So yeah, although the ebook is about your sun sign, which can provide insight. And I give some other little insight in there about, the 4th house in astrology for those who know a little bit more astrology. But your moon sign also tells about your mothering, like how you mother, because it's how you were mothered. So it's really helpful to bring consciousness and acceptance around that, right? Because we don't always appreciate the way we were mothered.
Right.
Sometimes it can cause pain for us, the way we were mothered, yet that's in us. We are that. And so the more we can bring our light of awareness, which is shown by the sun in astrology, and our love and acceptance and surrender, which is shown by the moon in astrology, the more we can have it be the way we want it. Like all signs, there are no bad signs.
Right.
There's only the light and the shadow of the sign.
What this keeps making me think about is that as parents, we need to see our kids for individuals and as they are. And I know sometimes it's easy for me to kind of clump my kids together and be like, okay, we're all doing it this way, but really to parent them to their unique needs. And if a natal chart helps clarify that, that's just another wonderful tool. At least that's what's coming up for me.
I always say they really do come with instruction books. They really do. It's called your natal chart, their natal chart. And understanding that can be really helpful in like individualizing the kind of parenting they need.
Right.
Of course you're going to, have an overall arching, umbrella. Like I really like my own personal style is like, you could call it attachment parenting or parenting with, connected parenting, nervous system, mindful parenting, that all of those umbrellas, but then you just prescribe it more precisely with the natal chart.
That makes a lot of sense. Oh, I'm so fascinated. All right. Is there anything else on this topic that you want to go into that I haven't asked before we start to wrap up?
Well, another really helpful thing that you don't need to go get an astrology reading for is just, when I was I was newly divorced, and Eva requires like a pretty unique kind of parenting. And although my kid's dad is lovely and wonderful, she just needed me. And so I ended up having my kids a lot, and I was really, really struggling. And, I was a practicing astrologer at the time. And, I'd wake up in the morning and I'd think, okay, you can do this. What are your tools? And I would think about where the moon was in the sky on that day, because the moon in the sky, like right now, it's in Cancer right now, and, it'll be moving into Leo when this podcast was recorded. The moon in the sky, and wherever the moon is in the sky, is the background music of the day. It affects everybody's mood, right? When the moon is in Aries, people do drive, I guarantee you, it's a fact. They drive more aggressive because Aries is more of a get out of my way kind of sign, right? And so what we can cry more when the moon is in Cancer. Our food feels more nurturing and important. We can reminisce and pick up the phone and call our own mom, or our kids can be needy on those days and clingy because they need mama. And so just knowing, and so I used to think like, okay, where's the moon and how can I work with that? Because when we go with the moon, life feels easier. We're going with we're surfing the wave of the day, the emotional wave of the day. So on Instagram every day I post under Luminary Parenting where the moon is and how you can ride that as a mama. And I know that, your audience is primarily younger moms. Well, the younger our kid is, our baby is, the more connected they are. They just came from there, and so they're mostly water. Kids hold more water in their bodies than adults do. So they really feel that. And if you can use that as a parenting hack, it can be, believe me, it can be really helpful. And so I was doing it for myself, and I used to tell my friends about it, and they're like, why don't you just be sharing this with everyone? Because it can be really, really useful for the collective and all mamas. And so I do that on Instagram, but I also have an online community where you can take that information and apply it to your natal chart. And in our core curriculum, I teach you a little bit about how to even look at a chart. And so, how to think about, well, the moon is about to move into Leo. And so that can be a lighter mood than the Cancer moon. Leo is fun and it loves games. And what I said to my Instagram and my community today is that later, if dinner is hard, because dinner can get hard, right? As we move into the day and our kids get tired, it's make up a game, make it really fun. We're going to be in the mood for that. But then in the community, I also personalize it for your natal chart, which takes it and it just makes it more personal for you and for your kids. So I think that's an awesome parenting hack as well. Just
I really enjoy
what's happening in the sky. Yeah.
Okay, we're going to take another break. When we come back, what is one final tip or piece of advice you would like to offer new or expectant parents? Okay, think about that during the break. We'll be right back.
Hey there. Did you know Baker's always gives you savings and rewards on top of our lower than low prices? And when you download the Baker's app, you'll enjoy over $500 in savings every week with digital coupons. And don't forget fuel points to help you save up to $1 per gallon at the pump. Want to save even more? With a Boost membership, you'll get double fuel points and free delivery. So shop and save big at Baker's today. Baker's, fresh for everyone. Savings may vary by state. Restrictions apply. See site for details.
Okay, we are back. So what final nugget of wisdom would you like to bestow?
Gosh, so for brand new moms, I really think that just getting your toes wet with astrology and just knowing where the moon is in the sky, what I talked about previously, and how you can use that in your parenting is really good. Get a natal chart reading for yourself, mama, because when your life can change a lot. Your whole life changes when you become a parent, and it can really feel good and it can be really helpful to stay connected with your own soul's intentions when you have someone that needs you a lot, your baby. But as far as getting your baby's natal chart read, I really like to wait until they're older, 3, 4, 5, and just let them be and let them surprise you and be curious and notice things about them oh, isn't this unique? And then if you have more than one kid, wow, my first child never did that, and this one is, and feel them for yourself before you go and you get a reading that someone says, oh, well, you can learn their sun, moon, and rising and be curious about that. But I really like when the child is just able to be before the parent, because around the age of 2, I'll just say this, Mars returns. Mars, is at a place, we all have Mars in our chart where it was when we were born, and it takes 2 years to go around the zodiac. And so when a child has their first Mars return, they start asserting their no, and they start separating a little bit from mama and the parents, like, oh, it's the intention is to do it my way. And they look at you while they're doing it differently than what you want, And so at that Mars return, and there's some other planetary things that happen, you can start to question and think, okay, gosh, I don't know how to deal with this situation. Like, I'm not sure what I should do about this. And it's really hard for me. Like, when you start encountering those problems, then you can go get your kids' chart read, because that can be really helpful to, like those little, like, yeah, this is who they are, and this is who you are, and this is how you can work with them, knowing that. So, yeah, I would say for brand new mamas, just know what's happening in the sky and then how you can flow with that. And get a reading for yourself.
No, definitely. I love the idea of a reading for yourself. So where can people find your work?
On Instagram, Luminary Parenting. On my website, if you'd like to book a reading or find out more about the community, that's luminaryparenting.com. I also, in 2023, I'm going to be releasing a parenting course on just, this idea of using your child's natal chart as it's for people that don't necessarily know astrology, but want to know astrology, in particular, how they can use their kid's natal chart to just be a better mom, like be the mom that they need instead of the mom that you that how you were mothered. Like you're prescribing it, you're making a little prescription for each child. And so that'll be launching in 2023. But if you get on my email list, you can download that ebook that I was talking about. That should be on the landing page. And yeah, you can stay in touch and see what calls to you.
Well, this was so much fun. I really enjoyed this. Thank you so much, Tara.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. It was great. I love talking to new mamas. That's like a really special, like I said, I was a natural parenting educator. I helped moms with nursing issues. And so there's a special place that I have in my heart for those moms.
This has been an episode of Yoga Birth Babies, produced by Prenatal Yoga Center. You can catch us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Periscope. I'm Deb Flaschenberg. Thanks for listening.
Judy was boring.
Hello.
Then Judy discovered ChumbaCasino.com.
It's my little escape.
Now Judy's the life of the party.
Oh, baby, mama's bringing home the bacon.
Whoa, take it easy, Judy. The Chumba life is for everybody. So go to ChumbaCasino.com and play over 100 casino-style games. Join today and play for free for your chance to redeem some serious prizes. ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+ terms and conditions apply. See website for details.